Golden Axe, the original, the OG, the game that is now 35 years old, and yet still plays surprisingly well to this day. Now, you probably already know this game in depth, but my question is, why does it hold up so well? Let's take a look. The first thing that stands out is the fluidity of the controls. There's no delay, there's no lag, there's no long animations during basic actions. If you want to turn around, your character turns around. If you want to attack, the attack comes out. There's no waiting. A perfect example of this is here, where I want to jump and attack, and then quickly re-jump and attack again to counter an enemy closing in from behind. I'm able to complete my first attack, and then immediately bounce back into the air, turn, and execute a second attack with no delay. Actions happen when I press the buttons. It gives the player a sense of having full control over the character, and that they're not having to try and wrestle it back from the animation that they're stuck in. The second thing is the flow of the game. From screen to screen, you keep busy and in the action. There's no real downtime except between levels. However, and this is important, the game doesn't overwhelm you either. It finds a nice balance between giving you enough enemies to attack, while not throwing too many of them at you. How long does a Golden Axe playthrough take? I would guess most people would say somewhere between 40 to 60 minutes. But honestly, it's actually under 30 minutes. Yep, less than half an hour to finish, yet the game makes it feel like you've been playing for a lot longer. That's down to the excellent pacing of it. It's long enough to keep you engaged the whole time, but not too long that it causes fatigue. I recently recorded a run of the game, which you can find a link to in the description of this video. From initial startup to the ending, the total time was 33 minutes. And that's not a speedrun. The final boss, Deathbringer himself, dies at 25 minutes. The final thing is the level of difficulty. Golden Axe does an extremely good job of slowly ramping up the challenge, except for the final boss, which turns into a bit of a middle finger to the player. But this actually ends up working in the game's favour, as after some practice a player is going to get good enough to breeze through all the stages with relatively minimal damage taken. Yet Deathbringer will still be there, just waiting to end a run if the player gets sloppy. It's a fine balance to maintain, challenging but rewarding, instead of challenging but annoying. So, you know this game well, it's a sub 30 minute run, but how easy is the achievement set to master? Well, you have 24 achievements to attain, they're worth a total of 284 points, and the set has a current reach ratio of 1.99, so not that hard. The achievements themselves are essentially split into two parts, those that cover dual mode and those that cover arcade mode. Dual mode is straightforward, just beat every fight, of which there are 12 in total. None of the fights are difficult, and they're good practice against the same enemies that you will be tackling in arcade mode. Arcade mode is where you're likely to get roadblocked, and it comes in the form of the legendary Golden Warrior. Clear arcade mode without using a continue. Now, everyone has their favourite, but my suggestion is to use the dwarf, Gilius Thunderhead. By far the weakest magic character, yet his physical and jumping attack range and speed is the best, and it's these that you will be most relying on throughout the game. Your aim is to conserve as much health as possible until you get to the final boss, because oh boy, will you sure need it. Any mistakes in the final fight are heavily punished, so having as much buffer as possible is never a bad thing. You can watch my long play video to see the technique that I use to beat Deathbringer, although by no means do I have it perfect. So what's your thoughts on Golden Axe here 35 years later? Will you also join the 476 people who have mastered the achievement set on Retro Achievements? Leave a comment below saying mastered if you're one of the many people who have already beaten this game and collected all the achievements. Until my next review, happy gaming!